today we're going to talk about 3 colossal mistakes that will absolutely kill your wholesaling houses business. 3 colossal mistakes that will kill your wholesaling houses business. We're talking about wholesaling houses. And if you're joining here, you don't know what wholesaling houses is. Wholesaling houses is where you can flip houses using no cash, no credit, have no experience. You can get a property under contract, $100,000 house for $50,000, and you can turn around and sell that contract for, say, $60,000 to a cash buyer that will purchase a property. Guess what? The cash buyer is getting a property below market. He has equity, and you are the person that brings the two together, the seller and the buyer. You get $10,000, and the seller gets that $50,000. That is called a wholesale transaction, and it works, and it's awesome. Wholesaling houses, there are major, critical, colossal mistakes that you can make, that you don't want to make, that can literally cripple your career. So, what is the first colossal mistake, right? There's 3 colossal mistakes. I'm going to do the first one here, and I'm going to do the next one tomorrow, and the next one the day after that. But 3 colossal mistakes. The first one, when you're wholesaling houses, right? When you're wholesaling houses, you send out direct mail. You have Google AdWords. You talk to sellers on the phone. But what happens is our job as wholesalers is to make offers to sellers, and it's a numbers game. The more offers we make, the bigger you will have a larger chance, right, of getting a deep discount house. So what happens is that we have a $100,000 house or a $200,000 house, and our job is to offer a low enough number that it makes sense we can turn and sell it quickly. See, the average days on market for a typical wholesale transaction, a typical regular transaction in Phoenix and across the country is roughly 80 to 120 days. So it takes 80 to 120 days to turn around and sell a property, right? So here's the deal, is that we want to get a property under contract that is so desirable to a cash buyer. So a cash buyer that has cash, that has $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in the bank, it's going to write a check for it, it's going to do it quickly, right? We are looking for those people that are going to write that check quickly, and they're going to do it within 7 days. See, we're going to sign a contract with a seller, and that seller is going to be for a price, right? But it's going to be a 30-day window. And then we're going to sign a contract with a buyer, and that contract is going to be a 7-day window. So that means we have to have such a smoking deal that our buyer is going to jump, and they're going to want to close that deal in 7 days, okay? Now, let's think about who is our buyer. We're looking for a buyer. So, people get involved in wholesaling and they go, oh my gosh, I'm getting a property and the house is worth $200,000 and I got it under contract for $190,000. And they're like, I got a $10,000 discount. Okay? When I first think of that, I go, who is my buyer? Well, we got 3 buyers, right? We got a fix and flip, a guy that's going to buy the house, fix it, and turn around and sell it. That's a fix and flip buyer. Now, that fix and flip buyer, is he going to buy that house at $190,000 when it's worth $210,000? No, there's no equity for them as an investment to buy it, fix it, and sell it. So that eliminates all my fix and flip buyers. Now, is it a buy and hold buyer? Now, buy and hold buyer is going to purchase a property, and they are going to turn around and they're going to buy it for cash flow and for a rental purposes, right? So the bottom line is a buy and hold buyer going to purchase a property that is worth $200 and and you get it under contract for $190? They're not going to buy it. So our only buyer is a retail buyer that has cash that they can close. As wholesalers, we do not sell, what's up? We do not sell properties to retail buyers unless we actually physically have to close on it. That means we have to cut a check, we have to close on it, and we have to do that, and then we turn around and sell it. But as real estate wholesalers, we don't want to take that risk, right? We just want to get it under contract and sell the contract so quickly, and it's such a smoking deal that our buyers will jump on it within 7 days, right? So guess what? I told you a newbie came up and said, hey, I got this property. It's worth $200,000. I got it under contract for $190. who's going to be the buyer? Who's going to jump on that? Who's going to be the one that's going to jump on and say it? Well, it's not going to be a fix and flip. It's not going to be a buy and hold. And guess what? It might not be a retail buyer that's going to write a check for it. That's a long shot. So what we want to do getting started, and the biggest colossal mistake you can make, and I'm going to get to it right here, the biggest colossal mistake you can make is you get properties under contract for too high a price because you eliminate all your buyers. Let's talk about it. So let's say you get a property that's worth $200,000 and you get it under contract for $180,000, right? So let's you and I think about for a second, who is our buyer? Who's our buyer going to be? So as soon as like we do, I'm at, if you can see this, I'm at my office right here, and I got my plasma, up on the up on the wall right there. We do our Monday morning meeting here. We're sitting there talking and this, that, and the other. So what we do is we sit around here and guys say, hey, I got the smoking deal on this contract. Here it is, and here's the property. I'll pull up the comps and look at it. And the first thing through my mind is, who is the buyer? Is it a fix and flip buyer? No, because is it a buy and hold buyer? A guy that's going to buy and hold it and for rents? So he has to have cash flow and he has to have some sort of equity. Or is it a retail buyer? See, and you have a retail buyer, right? A retail buyer, and you're looking for a retail buyer that's going to pay cash. That is like finding a needle in a haystack. The probability of selling that property within your 7-day window or within your 30-day window is very tight because you're looking for a needle in a haystack. So what we want to do as real estate wholesalers is we want to get a smoking deal, and we want to look for these two properties to sell to these two buyers. We're looking for a property we can sell to a fix and flip investor. Now, I have a pretty large buyers list, 30, 40,000 names right on the list. We send out surveys to that list. Now, this is critically important information. I'm telling you, listen to what I'm about to say, because here's the deal, is I surveyed our list. So I sent out a survey and I said, what is your biggest buying decision, right? Is it the location? No, it's not the location. Is it the bed and bath? Is it the age of the house, right? Is it the, so location, age, all that was not the factor. I sent out a survey to our entire buyers list. You know what the major factor was? Equity. Equity. That is the buyer's number one buying decision. So all of our buyers and all of our 34,000 people on our email list, right? All of the buyers, their biggest number one buying decision is equity, right? So here's the deal. What is the number one first colossal mistake you can make? The first colossal mistake is getting a property under contract, right, for too high a price, because you eliminate that fix and flip buyer. And guess what? There's no equity in the deal. So you get a house under contract for that's worth $200,000. You get it for $180,000. There's only $20,000 there. You eliminate the fix and flip buyer because there's not enough equity. Here's the rule of thumb. You got to have a minimum of 30% equity in the deal. 30% equity. So a minimum of 30%. The more you have them equity, the faster you're going to sell that property. You have a property you put out to market at, say, 68%, 65%, you'll sell that property so fast. Why? Because of the equity play. Essentially, colossal mistake number 2 is not having the correct out clause. So I'll tell you my second deal. My second deal I got under contract. The house was literally gutted, right? The guy was from Tucson. And I was so confident after my first deal. I made $11,008 my first deal. And I was like, man, there's nothing go wrong. I made a steal. This is kicking. I can do this, right? So this guy got in a bidding war for this house. And this was back in 2003. So this house was a piece of crap. It was like 750 square feet. It was completely gutted. Everything was out of the house. No kitchen. It was literally down to the sticks on this nasty little lot. Basically, he's like, I've got 4 other people that want it. I'm looking for the highest and best offer, but I need to waive all contingencies. I need to get to make sure you're going to close, and I need to get a bigger earnest money deposit down, and yada yada yada, all the stuff, right? And I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. So I got under contract, right, with him, and he wanted a $1,000 earnest money deposit. I wanted to give him $500, and he wanted, I can't remember what the purchase price was, but he wanted me to waive all my contract contingencies. Now, I was brand new. I just wanted to get the deal. So I was like, I'm going to waive all my contract contingencies because I wanted the deal, because I was so confident. It's my second deal. I know I can sell it. So I waived. So here's another mistake that I made, huge mistake, is I did not deposit the earnest money, the $1,000 earnest money, into escrow, right? How dumb is that? This is how dumb I was. So I actually went to the guy's house. He lived in Tucson, but he drove in for the day. His mother lived in Phoenix. I met at their mother's house with him over his couch, right? We signed the contract, and I gave him personally a $1,000 cashier's check. Dumb move. Don't ever do that. Always give earnest money if you're going to give earnest money. Typically you don't in the business. We usually do $10, you know what I mean? If you do $500 or $250, always give it to the title company. In my case, I gave a $1,000 earnest money deposit, and I gave it to him directly. Colossal mistake, right? That's number 3, number 4, number 5. It's so terrible, right? So here's the deal, is that I gave him the earnest money, and then he basically got me to waive all contingencies, no financing contingency, no out clauses, nothing. So if I didn't close, he could sue me, right, for specific performance. Meaning that means he could go to the courts and he could make me buy the house, right? Because I waived my contract contingencies. Never waive your contract contingencies whatsoever. I don't, unless it's such a smoking deal. Like Frank Heron, he's on here. Some other guys on here that have done, a bunch of deals. If you've done a bunch of deals, just buy the house, take it down. If it's an absolute smoking deal, you don't care. You can make your numbers work, you close on it, you turn around and sell it. But as a brand new person, when I was brand spanking new, just getting started, on my second deal I ever did, I gave the guy earnest money and I waived my contract contingencies. Big mistake. So I called up my cash buyer who purchased the first property I have ever done. And I called him up. He drove by the house and he goes, dude, I wouldn't touch this house with a 10-foot pole. I mean, it's 700 square feet. There's nothing inside. Your price is too high. I don't know, man. I don't know what you're going to do with this. Honestly, I don't know what you're going to do with this. Well, listen, do you have any referrals? Anybody you could refer me to? Anybody that could help me out? So he goes, I know this guy. He loves doing these small jobs. These small houses and stuff. He'd be good for something like this. Try to turn around and call him. So he gave me his phone number. I called the guy up. He came out there. It was him and his dad. His dad was funding him. It was the son, and the son was going to buy the house and basically clean the whole entire thing up. So this was after me putting bandit signs up, talking to people. Everyone was telling, I was in panic mode. I was freaking out because I had no contingency. I gave it $1,000. It was my second deal. I went in and thought I was so confident, and then boom, finally, I got this guy to agree to purchase the house. We agreed on it, and I made $2,000 on the deal, right? $2,000. And I could have lost big time because I would have been forced to purchase a house, right? Big mistake. The bottom line is that, here's the thing. Never give earnest money, right, to a seller. Always give it to a title company, number one. Number two is always leave your contract contingency. Now, there's multiple different contract contingencies, but I'm going to give you the absolute best one that will have, it's from my attorney, essentially, in the best way to do it. Write up the contract for 30 days. And you're wondering, where do I get the contract? How do I get the contract? Use your state's real estate contract. So if you live in Arizona, get your Board of Realtors contract for Arizona. So you're using the state board contract, right? But the bottom line is the biggest thing you want to have in there is if you write the contract for 30 days, you give yourself a 30-day inspection period. So that means during that inspection period, you can get out, no harm, no foul, right? Or if you write it for 45 days, give yourself a 45-day inspection period. You can get out, no harm, no foul. The bottom line is during that inspection period, your job as a real estate wholesaler is to find a buyer. And if you can't find a buyer, you got two options. Either A, renegotiate the price with the seller, or B, right, you can get out of the contract, no harm, no foul, because it's within your inspection period. Normal residential real estate contracts have anywhere from a 10 to a 15-day inspection period. You want to extend that inspection period to the length of your contract. Now, 95% of the sellers are not going to go for that. 95%. They're going to sell retail. They're not going to go for that. But we're not looking for 95%. We're looking for the 5%. We're looking for distressed sellers that they just want to get out of their house and they just want to move it, right? Because that's the only way we can get a deal that's good enough for our buyer to jump on it. Remember, we're signing a contract for 30 days with a seller. Now, we want to put it out to the market, right? And we've only got two buyers. We've got a fix and flip buyer and we got a buy and hold buyer. So it's going to be such a smoking deal for your buy and hold buyer and your fix and flip buyer that they're going to jump on it and close within 7 days. All the deals we do and we close within a 7-day period, okay? We close within a 7-day period. So the bottom line is that when we do that, right, it has to be a smoking deal. That's why colossal mistake number one is writing the contract for too high a price. If you write the contract for too high a price and you give yourself a 30-day inspection period with a 30-day contract and you put it out to market, no one's going to jump on it. It has to be such a smoking deal that everybody jumps on it. And I relate it to stocks. Apple, $136 today. Okay, on the market, $136 today, Apple. What if you could buy Apple for $120? What if you could buy Apple for $100? What if you had the ability to buy options on Apple for $100 a share? Right? You would be like, how many can I buy? And then if you put it out to the market and you sold it for $120 a share, you make $20 spread per share. If you had 10,000 shares, you're talking a lot of money. Okay? You can't do that in stocks. Why? Because it's all insider trading. You can't do that. It's timing. You have to be there at the right time, at the right place to be able to buy it. Real estate, you can. You can find a distressed seller that they don't want to wait 120 days. They don't want to wait all the time. They want to sell it and they want to sell it now and they're willing to take a discount. Why? Because this house is a thorn in their side and they don't want to deal with it. So here's the deal. Make sure you never give earnest money to a seller, right? Number one. Always give it to a title company. And here's the deal. Make sure when you sign a contract, you give yourself a 30-day inspection period and right down to the end. If you want to do a 45-day contract, do a 45-day inspection period because your goal is to sell it within those 7 days and you want to get such a smoking deal that you can turn around and sell it and everybody's jumping in to buy it. And then that's where you make money in this business. You make money in this business. So what's colossal mistake number three? The colossal mistake number three is not understanding that we're in the business of marketing, right? And colossal mistake number three is not consistently marketing, right? That every single week, dropping mail every week, having AdWords going all the time, and not doing that. And then what happens is it creates inconsistency in the business. Now, you've heard of like a roller coaster, right? You know, you've been to like Tower of Terror. That's in California. Tower of Terror just drops straight down, right? But, you know, what's that other screaming, Arizona screaming over something or whatever, right? In Disneyland. What's it called? Screaming? I don't know, screaming something. But so they got, you know, they're screaming is what they call it in Arizona. But it's a roller coaster. It's going up and down and up and down and up and down. You know, this business is the exact same way. Your income as a real estate wholesaler is going to go up and down and up and down and up and down, and it's going to be exactly the up and downs with your marketing, right? You're going to drop some mailers, you're going to get calls, you're going to get contracts, you're going to get deals, you're going to get closings, you're going to bam, I'm in the money. And then you're not going to market for 2 or 3 weeks and you're going to be like crickets. Consistency comes from weekly leads every single week. And it took me a while to get that. I mean, it took me, took me several years to actually figure that out, right? Until I started doing that. So colossal mistake number 3 is, first off, and there's multiple different facets to colossal mistake number 3, but the first one is not consistent marketing. The second part to colossal mistake number 3 for real estate wholesalers is not tracking your KPIs. So you're probably wondering, what the heck is a KPI, right? I didn't know what a KPI was. One book I highly suggest reading, we're gonna cross the street here, try not to get killed. One book I highly suggest reading is called Traction. Traction is gold. Traction is a phenomenal book. But I definitely suggest reading it. And it's gonna explain about what KPIs are, what are called key performance indicators. Those are the numbers in your business that if you don't track and understand completely, then it's incredibly difficult to scale and know what levers you can basically press. Here's the lake. Pretty nice out here, huh? Look at little duckies. Look at all these little things. Check out this thing. What's that? Oh. Chase the ducks around. But you got to have your KPIs, key performance indicators, right? So if you know your KPIs and you know them inside and out, then what's going to happen is you'll understand. Now, what are KPIs? So if you're wondering what the heck are KPIs, I never tracked those before. I don't understand what they are. KPIs are the key numbers in your business. So in wholesaling, right, our KPIs, right, are cost per lead, right? Cost per lead, that's one KPI, right? Cost per lead. So what is your cost to generate a lead? Now, when you do that, you have to define what's a lead, right? So you go, I don't know what a lead is. A lead is not anybody who calls. That's called the response rate, right? Anybody who calls, that's a response. Right? An actual lead is you're going to have people off your direct mail, even off your Google AdWords, they're going to say, especially off your direct mail, it's going to say, take me off your list, right? I don't want to talk to you anymore, right? And stop mailing me, right? That's not a lead. So you might have 100 calls coming in, and like 30 of them are going to say, take me off your list, never call me again, I'm not interested in selling my house. Then you take those 30 off, basically the balance, the 70, those are your leads. Now you take those leads and you divide it by the amount of cost. Now that's going to give you what's called the cost per lead. Now, cost per lead is incredibly important, so now you're going to understand, because here's the deal. When it comes to scaling this business and you want to do $500,000 to $1 million to $2 million a year, if you don't know your cost per lead, it can get way out of whack really, really quick. I mean, we're in our boardroom, and boardroom, it's funny because boardroom's from 0 to 100,000, and with boardroom, no one knows their cost per lead. No one knows, and this is just one of multiple different KPIs that we track. But nobody knows their numbers. In Boardroom Elite, everybody knows it. Now, Boardroom Elite is from 100,000 to $500,000, roughly. Right? So those guys know their numbers inside and out. They have a scorecard, they have all their numbers, they understand all the metrics, and now they're in the business of scale. But some of the guys' cost per lead are upwards to $400. So for every lead to generate, cost them $400. Well, guess what? If it takes you 10, here's the next KPI. Next guys, how many leads does it take to get a contract? That's called leads per contract. So you get cost per lead and leads per contract. Well, if you have a $400 cost per lead and it takes you 20 leads to generate a contract, that's your leads per contract, you're talking $8,000 just to get a deal. Well, guess what? If your average deal is 10 grand, that means you're making $2,000 profit and you haven't even paid taxes yet, right? You haven't done any of that stuff yet. But anyway, so you got cost per lead, right? You get cost per lead, you got leads per contract. So conversion is incredibly important, right? And that is that's the cost per leads and leads per contract. So the leads per contract is how many leads does it take for you to be able to convert into a contract. The bottom line is that understanding those specific and you getting better at conversion. You get better talking to sellers. Well, guess what's going to happen? You are now going to get a better leads per contract. Instead of taking you 20, now it's going to take you 8. Now it's going to take you 10, right? So our average in our business leads per contract is 12. And we're working on driving that number down. How do you drive that number down? Well, first off, you get targeted marketing, number one. And number two is you get your sales guys really good at conversion. If they get really good at conversion, that number's gonna go down. If that number goes down, think about it. If you have a $400 cost per lead and it costs you, say, $4,800 to generate a contract, but now you can bring it down to, say, $3,000 to generate a contract, well, that's gonna be a big difference. Now, not everywhere. I'm talking about highly competitive markets. Highly competitive markets, you know, you get a higher cost per lead. But, you know, I was just talking to Steve in Indianapolis. You know, he's getting low cost per leads. We're talking like, you know, we're talking $100, $80, $100 cost per lead. That's a huge difference, man. You can do a lot of business. You can scale big time with those type of numbers. So we got the 3 key performance indicators that you must know to scale this business, you know, anywhere beyond doing 2 or 3 deals a month, right? You've got the cost per lead, you got the leads per contract, and you have to have your average deal size. With those 3 numbers, you can predict your income, you can scale your income, you can plan out your income, right? So, I mean, think about it. If you know your average deal size, and our average deal size is roughly about $17,000 per deal. So our $17,000 per deal, our conversion rate's about 12, and our cost per lead's about 240 right now. So you put all that together, right? You can take those numbers and you can project saying, hey, if I'm going to do $5 million, how much marketing do I have to do? Well, you can actually calculate that based upon the amount of marketing spend on $240 cost per lead and your conversion rate of 12, right? You can figure that out. So that's the exciting thing about this business is once you start dialing in and you understanding we're in the business of marketing, and then you understand that, okay, now I got to track my numbers and I got to really dive in and track those numbers. Once I figure out how to track those numbers, then I can scale it to something big. The bottom line is I love this business. I love teaching. I love hearing people's success stories. And tell me what you guys are really struggling with. What is something in your business, in your life, whatever, you're massively struggling with? And let's talk about it. See what we can do to help you, you know, get to the next level, do whatever you want to do to go out and crank it out. So thank you guys so much. Go to flip2freedom.com, flip2freedom.com.